Thinking of buying a home in Utah? Whether you're relocating here or you already live here and you're looking to upsize or even invest here, there are certain types of homes in Utah that you should never buy, no matter how good the price or how beautiful the photos look. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 types of homes that people oftentimes make mistakes buying. These are the homes that you should avoid, and I want to make sure that I educate you on each and every one of these, and most importantly, understand why you shouldn't buy these homes. And my ultimate goal here is to make sure that you don't end up with a mountain full of regret and massive repairs and troubles when it comes time to resell that home. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Steele. I help people relocate to and move within the state of Utah each and every day. I've helped countless families accomplish just that. And it's my vision to make sure that I create the best content on YouTube to help educate you to make sure that you can make that move with confidence. So let's dive right in on the 5 homes that you should not buy in Utah. Okay, number 1 is homes that back or face a major surface street. Now, major roads aren't just major thoroughfares in terms of highways and freeways, but these big surface streets are oftentimes a telltale sign that you shouldn't buy the home. And it might not feel like a big deal to you, and that's completely reasonable to expect. But living on or behind one of these major surface streets can really tank your resale value. I see time and time again people purchasing these homes, and the resale value can take a 15% hit or more just because it backs or faces one of these major streets. And in addition to the resale value problem, it can increase your homeowner's insurance. It will create a louder environment for sure. It will also create worse air quality if you have all those vehicles driving by your house constantly, but it'll also affect your day-to-day life, and it tends to make your life a little more stressful. And as I rewind the clock and I look back 20 years ago, when I was purchasing my second home, I was looking in a neighborhood that I found a home that was perfect for me. It checked all of the boxes, but most importantly, the price was right as well. And as I toured that home with my real estate agent and I asked the question, what is going to be behind this property? Because there was a massive strip of land, not only behind this property, but all of the properties along the neighborhood. It was a massive chunk of land. And when the real estate professional told me that it was going to be a future highway, it immediately turned me off to the point where let's move on, let's go find a different home, because that's not what I was looking for. And today, that is now a new freeway being built through Salt Lake County. And honestly, if your house backs one of these major roads, it's going to definitely affect your resale value. So as you create those search queries to find the perfect home for you, it's very common to find that some of the houses that look the best, that fit within your search criteria, namely your price, are going to be homes that fit this description. And so as a general rule of thumb, if you see orange and white lines painted on a road, you might want to reconsider purchasing that home, as it's definitely going to affect your resale value. And this isn't just for the front side of your home, but also the back side of your home as well. And look, appraisers know it, buyers know it, sellers know it. We all know that these properties are going to take a big hit on resale value. So my suggestion here is to stay away. Okay, next up, let's talk about the second type of home that you should avoid, and that's homes that have been flipped. And look, flipped homes look absolutely beautiful most of the time, but what you can't see can cost you thousands or even tens of thousands or even a 6-figure mistake. And the reason for this is most flippers cut corners. They're there to try to create a home that looks beautiful and doesn't necessarily hold to the standards that you might be expecting yourself. And many of them cut corners to cash out fast. Now, I can say this confidently as somebody who renovated and flipped hundreds of homes myself. I know the game of real estate in terms of flipping real estate. I understand what most people do when they flip a home. I see the poor craftsmanship, the lack of pulling permits or structural engineering to remove walls. I see it every single day. This is something that's really common not only in Utah, but throughout every metropolitan area. Now, this is not to say that all flipped homes are bad. There are some flipped homes that are really, really good. I would just argue that 70 to 80% of them are not. So if you're looking at a home that has been flipped, I want to make sure that I get my eyeballs on that home and make sure that I do the due diligence necessary to make sure that they've pulled permits and they've gone through the proper channels to make sure that they're doing a job that's good. And all too often, the flipped homes are just lipstick on a pig. Let's be honest, they put cosmetic upgrades into a house to cover up the old, to make sure that that home looks beautiful and new so that the buyer is ready to pull the trigger. But if the major things, the structural things, the foundation, the roof, the HVAC system, the plumbing system, the electrical system, if these things are not upgraded correctly, then what are you really paying for? You're paying for 1,000 trips to Home Depot to fix those things, and honestly, it's not worth the money. But the thing that concerns me the most is unlicensed people doing the work that they shouldn't be doing in the first place. And this is really focused in plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems throughout the house. You can't just go do this work without knowing what you're doing, and I see it time and time again. And one of the things that I like to do when we're making an offer on a home, we found that perfect home for you. It looks great, it's phenomenal, it's been remodeled. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the city and request a history of permits. I want to know, did they pull permits to do the work that's been done? And a lot of times, contractors, people, real estate agents, it doesn't matter. People oftentimes think you don't need to pull a permit unless you're doing major structural changes or you're adding on to the home, and that's just not true. Permits are there to protect us, and they're the minimum standard. The Department of Professional Licensing offers a really easy tool to make sure that the work being performed is being done by people who are licensed to do so. And as we go through these homes, I'm not looking at the beautiful cosmetic upgrades. I'm looking at the roof, the water heater, the HVAC system, the plumbing system, the electrical system. These are the things I'm really looking at to make sure that you're getting the home that you deserve. So, all in all, are flipped homes terrible to buy? Well, not always. I would argue that about 70 to 80% of the homes that have been flipped have been done so very poorly. So we have to make sure that we know what we're buying before we do, because it's going to cost you thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars and possibly much, much more. In the event that we find a home that's been flipped that is one of those 20 to 30% of homes that are flipped that are done well, then great. We just want to make sure that we do a better job with our due diligence and our inspections to make sure that we're getting the home that you deserve. And while on this topic, the last thing I want to kind of highlight as a red flag when buying a flipped home is oftentimes flippers, they choose not to provide seller disclosures to the buyer. And the reason that they argue this is that they've never actually lived in the home. Well, if you're doing that much work in a home to begin with, you know enough about that home and the things that you're doing to it that you should provide disclosures. And if the seller is not willing, that to me is a major red flag if they're not willing to provide us with seller disclosures. So let this be a cautionary tale. There are so many people that I've seen purchase flipped homes that end up regretting it. Let's make sure that you're getting the home that you really want and the home that you're paying for. This next type of home that I'm going to talk about is a little controversial. A lot of people might push back on this, but I'm going to argue that homes with solar panels are oftentimes a red flag, and here's why. Let me lay this out for you. And before I begin, do I think that solar panels are a deal breaker or they're a terrible idea to do with your home? No, not necessarily. What I'm arguing here is that if you're purchasing a home where the equipment, the solar panels themselves are leased and you're taking on that lease, it's very rare that that actually works out to your benefit. These solar panels, in my opinion, are drastically overpriced, and they're sold this way because they can be financed for such a long period of time against what they're trying to make as the value proposition of buying them, which is getting rid of your electricity bills. I just want to make sure that if we're buying a home for you that has solar panels, that those solar panels are either paid for or they will be paid for at closing by the seller. If that's the case, great. The home is awesome. It's ready to go. But if you're taking on that lease, that's where I really want to weigh the pros and cons to see if it's worth it for you, and it usually is not. And the next thing that I really want to talk about when it comes to solar panels on your home is what is the condition of the roof? The people that installed these solar panels on top of your roof, did they do so correctly, or did they compromise the penetrations going into the roof that's then going to shorten the lifespan of the roof itself? This is oftentimes the case. So often, I've seen this so many times. People have solar panels installed on a roof that's maybe 5 years old, and 5 years to 8 years later, the roof is done. And that roof should last so much longer, but it's because of the way that it was installed upon the roof. We just want to make sure that we look into this with a lot of detail to make sure that you're not buying yourself a major repair and a major problem, because re-roofing a house is expensive already, but roofing companies, they're not going to touch solar panels. So what you have to do is you have to call the solar company to come out, uninstall the solar panel system. Then you have to call the solar company back again to reinstall the solar panels. This can drastically increase the cost of re-roofing your house by about double. So we want to make sure that it was done correctly so that you know what you're getting, so that what you're ending up with is not a mountain of headaches. And the first question I'm going to ask when we're looking at homes with solar panels is, are they owned or are they leased, or will they be paid for at closing? We want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, and we want to make sure that that roof underneath is in good condition. Okay, next up, let's talk about homes with big issues. And to the average person, a home with big issues might not be that easy to spot or to see. Some homes are priced too good to be true, and that's because they are. These are the properties with serious baggage that the average buyer just never sees coming. And these major issues can come in a variety of different forms. Some of them are location-based. Is the home in a flood zone or sinkholes prominent in this particular area, or does the home need meth contamination? There are a lot of these big red flags, these things that we want to spot for, inspect for, and make sure that we're getting you the home that you need. And these are major issues that can cost a lot of money to remedy. Other big issues might be weird easements that might be affecting access to the property or make that property much less desirable, therefore killing and crushing your resale value. It also might include HOA disputes or lawsuits with other costs that are associated with these HOA lawsuits. This is really prominent in many places. Even in my neighborhood in Daybreak, where I live in South Jordan, there are townhomes that are affected by one of these major lawsuits. We want to make sure that we avoid these big issues. And in other parts of the city are these big issues caused because it's in a historic district, because remodeling that house is going to cost exponentially more because of the historical nature of the community and the process by which you have to renovate. Those renovations can cost 5-10 times more than your average house. You want to know about these big issues before you jump into a house. And sometimes these big issues are hidden in the small print. Oftentimes, we don't discover these big issues until we've gone down the process of making an offer and we've received seller disclosures from the seller. And sometimes it's in that fine print that we're finding more problems. We're asking more questions to find out what exactly happened when you fixed that thing or you solved this problem over here. And we find more problems that have come and stemmed from it. And so we use these seller disclosures as a tool to ask and investigate for more information to make sure that you're getting a home without these major issues. Was the home flooded? Was it fixed by a restoration company? If so, who? When did it happen? Do they have a license to do the work? What was the nature of the cause of the problem to begin with? And was that problem remedied? So all of these things are questions we're going to ask to make sure that you're getting a home that's worth the investment. Now, does this mean that all homes with big problems are not worth buying? Of course not. They are definitely worth buying. They just very well may be worth a lot less than you're willing to pay for it. And it's precisely this that helps me save clients tens of thousands, if not sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on the purchase of their home. Okay, next up, let's talk about homes with structural or soil issues. This is a major concern. In fact, just a few years ago in the city of Draper, there were a couple of homes that slid down the mountain in a landslide in the middle of the night, and it was all caught on video. These homeowners were evacuated months in advance, but there's a row of about, I think, 8 houses along that street where the homes have been condemned. The homes were built upon soil that was compacted according to the city and the developer correctly, and the soil tests were performed, but it obviously was not executed as it should because it failed and these homes went sliding down the mountain. Oddly enough, this is not a common occurrence. It's very rare, but it's a perfect example as to why you should look into every single aspect as to what the home is built upon. There are neighborhoods throughout Utah where most of the lots within the neighborhood are built upon ground or soil that has been been undisturbed. The nature of what is considered undisturbed soil is soil that has not been moved or excavated for 50 years or more. And then within that same community, you might have 1, 2, or 3 lots on one side of the community where they had to build up the soil so that they could maximize profits in the community by adding those 3 additional building lots. That is the concern. That is the problem. There's a neighborhood that I've sold a few homes to clients of mine that have reached out to me through YouTube right here in Utah, that there's one of those lots specifically where they had to build that soil up about 25 feet. And for me personally, that's a home that I would never buy. And I will definitely give you the advice to avoid it as well, because I'm not willing to make that investment in my home and see those major structure or soil problems destroy the very investment that I'm hoping to live in for a long, long time. And most homes in Utah have good soil and good ground underneath them, but there are certain regions, certain cities and neighborhoods that are notorious for having problems. There are some neighborhoods in Utah where the foundation problems are systemic. They're throughout the entire subdivision. So we want to make sure that we're aware of those things to avoid those particular neighborhoods. And we want to make sure that we can see any signs of structural problems so that we can ask questions or further investigate using different types of inspections to make sure that we're avoiding those pitfalls. And while home inspections are an incredibly valuable tool, they really do help tremendously, it's not the end-all be-all. In fact, it's just scratching the surface. In other words, structural reports far outweigh the value of a home inspection report. So we want to make sure that we leverage a home inspection so that we know what questions to ask and who else do we need to bring in to make sure that this home is worth it. There are a lot of homes where the center of the home, the floor, is risen up from the outside of the home. And that's because the outside of the home has settled over the decades to the point where there's a very noticeable hump in the middle of the floor. These are things that we want to know. Number one, are they structural in nature? Are they going to cause more problems in the future? What is the cost to remedy these problems? And is it really worth the investment from you to put that money into the home that's necessary to make sure that this home lasts for decades to come? And my advice here is, if you're looking in older neighborhoods, we're always going to look a little bit deeper. We're always going to rely on more inspections if our home inspector finds more major problems. We're also going to look into asbestos problems or lead-based paint problems or meth contamination or radon gas. All of these things are things that we're going to inspect for to make sure that you know what you're buying. And in Utah, even though so often I'm talking about new subdivisions with new construction homes, we have a lot of old neighborhoods here as well. And those old neighborhoods provide an immense amount of charm, and so many people want to purchase those homes because of that charm. And one thing I want to talk about these older neighborhoods is it's really a big concern to make sure that you're buying a home where the roots from those trees have not damaged the sewer lines to the point where you have a broken sewer line that could end up costing you $10,000 or even $20,000 or more. And these old neighborhoods are some of the most charming in the city. I love them. Yellcrest is one of my absolute favorites, but we want to make sure that we look into all of the problems that could be affecting your home. And all in all, whether these major issues with homes, whether it be outdated plumbing systems, an outdated electrical system that's a fire hazard, maybe it's one of those electrical panels that's a major hazard, or a major roof repair or structural or foundation repair. These are things that it's my job to make sure that you avoid, or at least you know going into what you're buying so that you know what to expect. And it's this expertise from my background in building homes as well as renovating hundreds and hundreds of homes in Salt Lake City and outside of the city. This is the experience that I bring to the table. It's always worth having a second set of eyes to make sure that you're getting the home that you deserve. And if you are looking to relocate to Utah or move within it, and you're looking to either buy or sell, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Reach out to us. You can find our contact information down in the description below, or you can book a video call with us in that link that you'll find on the pinned comment on this and every video. And if you want to learn about some of the best places to live in Utah and life in Utah in general, check out this playlist next. And until the next video, thanks.